It's 1 a.m., and John is at the end of a long shift. As a college student working for a small pizza shop, the promise of one last tip outweighs the urge to go home, so he takes the final order of the night. The order is specific and unsettling: 4 large pizzas to an address on the furthest outskirts of town. The caller's voice is barely a whisper, forcing John to strain just to hear the delivery details before the line goes dead. The pavement gives way to a narrow dirt track, and soon John is completely swallowed by the woods. There are no streetlights here, only the single beam of his motorcycle cutting through the absolute darkness of the forest. He arrives at a house that looks like it has been abandoned for decades. There are no lights in the windows and no movement in the yard, leaving the property in a state of total, eerie silence. Standing on this porch, John is miles from help or witnesses. The physical isolation of the forest creates an environment where the usual safety of the city is completely non-existent. When no one answers the bell, John discovers the front door is already slightly ajar. He steps into the dim hallway as a cat darts across the floor, and suddenly the house jumps to life. The television clicks on and the lights begin to flicker. He finds 2 young girls sitting on a bed in a back room. They ignore his questions and his request for payment, staring at him with a blank, unwavering intensity that makes the air in the room feel heavy. The girls' eyes suddenly lose all pigment, turning solid, milky white. Their silence breaks into a sharp laugh as they raise their hands to point at something standing directly behind John's shoulder. John spins around to see a towering, shadowy figure of a woman looming over him. Panic takes over. He drops the pizzas and runs for the exit without looking back. He reaches his bike and tries to flee, but the engine fails almost immediately, leaving him stranded. In the glow of his fading taillight, his rearview mirror reveals the woman and the 2 girls standing at the edge of the property, watching him from the dark. John hides in the brush until the police arrive. They conduct a thorough search of the house and the surrounding woods, but the only living thing they find on the premises is a single stray cat. The police report is empty. Despite the physical presence of 3 people and the audible noise John experienced, the house appears to have been vacant for years, leaving a terrifying encounter with no physical trace. The following morning, the mystery takes a grim turn. John discovers that the house has not had a legal resident or a functioning power connection in over 3 years. Records show that 3 years ago, the family living there, a mother and her 2 young daughters, were the victims of a violent triple homicide inside the home. The case remains a high-profile failure for local authorities. The killer was never caught, and the motive for the attack was never determined. The unsolved nature of the crime has left the house in a state of permanent mourning, where the specific details of that final violent night continue to repeat for anyone who enters. By mapping John's experience to historical police files, paranormal elements become eyewitness testimony. The 2 girls he encountered perfectly match the murdered daughter's final photos. The tall shadow corresponds directly to the mother, found near the bedroom door that night. Even the flickering television and the mechanical failure of the motorcycle mirror the reports of chaotic electrical interference and local panic recorded during the original investigation. John's delivery run serves as a precise, minute-by-minute playback of the tragedy that occurred 3 years earlier. This leaves us with the most baffling piece of evidence: the 1 a.m. phone call that started the entire event. A house with no working phone lines and no living residents somehow placed a successful call to a pizza shop miles away, ordering food for a family that had been dead for years. This suggests the encounter was a calculated effort. The call functioned as a lure, pulling a living witness back to a crime scene that the rest of the world had moved on from. The haunting appears to be an expression of desperation, the victims using the only means available to them to ensure their story is not forgotten. John never returned to his job. The memory of those white eyes and the shadow in his mirror left him with a lasting psychological weight that he carries to this day. The figures in that house were the survivors of a real tragedy, manifesting in the only way they could after their lives were stolen. The house remains standing in the woods, empty of life, but still filled with the presence of an unsolved crime. This story serves as a reminder that some crimes leave a mark that time cannot erase. The persistence of human evil remains on that property, long after the perpetrator has disappeared.